Hello and welcome to the Winter Disco channel. In this video, we are looking at The Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, a world book for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition set in the world of the hugely popular live-streamed Dungeons & Dragons game Critical Role. Critical Role is a very successful Dungeons & Dragons game that gets broadcast live to tens of thousands of fans each week. You might not know the names or recognize the faces, but you probably do know the voices, as they voiced all kinds of things from anime to cartoons to video games and done a lot of other acting work. The show is so popular now that it's spun off in its own official D&D sourcebook. And I'll say that again. This is an official world book for an unofficial campaign. That gives you an idea of how popular Critical Role is. The book is set in the Wildemount region, which is where the Critical Role Campaign 2 is set. And fun fact, their first campaign actually already has its own world book called the Tal'Dorei Campaign Setting, published by Green Ronin Publishing in 2017. In this video, I'm going to go through the book, mostly page by page, but I will skip over a lot of the detail. And it's really just to give you a general idea of what's included. I'm planning on some other videos that go into a little bit more depth for each section, and that will give you a better idea of what to expect. If you do want to see more content like this, definitely subscribe to the channel because more content's coming out all the time. Now, there's a lot of content in this book to sink our teeth into, so let's get straight into it. All right, here we go. Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. So let's have a look. We have the nice Luxon thing there, we'll go into. So as always, you should always start with the disclaimer. So the disclaimer here says, the content of Wildemount and all the peoples within are fictional and primarily exist to invite you and your friends into a world of exploration, imagination, and deep emotional catharsis through epic struggles and victories. We advise you to embrace failure as much as success, sadness as much as joy, and to remain vigilant when taking care of pets or animals you acquire on your adventures. Wizards of the Coast and Critical Role are not responsible for any mental trauma suffered by animal companions or domesticated fey creatures resulting from persistent danger and deadly challenges, nor will be responsible for whatever lack of passive perception might lead to a failure to notice the animal's rapid escape. That is definitely a reference to the Mighty Nine's lack of care of their animals. If you have watched the series, you completely understand why they've put that in. They don't take care of their pets. So here we've got the contents here. General introduction, which basically sets up what the book is and whereabouts it's set in Exandria, in this case Wildemount. So Wildemount is a continent of Exandria. And then it goes like the calendar and the time, because it is its own specific world. It has its own setting and time and calendar and everything. So then we have the history and the pantheon. And we'll go into a bit more detail when we look in chapter 1. The factions and societies. That actually goes through a lot of different factions and societies. And like the characters that you'll come across and what they're after and what they do. And we have the Wildemount Gazetteer. This is sort of talking about the locations that you're going to come across. Then we start to get into the rules of the book. So the majority of it is rules. So almost 160, 260, 140 plus pages of rules. So chapter 4 goes into character options. So for all different races, and then some 3 different subclasses, some new magic, and something called the Heroic Chronicle. So we'll go into detail of all of that. And we have some adventures to go through. We'll probably skip over that just so there's no spoilers there in case you do end up running this game or playing this game. Then we also have some treasures, which are some really interesting ways of doing treasures in here. And then monsters, which is always cool. So let's get stuck in. So because this is just a overview, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But it starts out by saying that this is a new setting, going through the nations of Wildemount, and the current situation, which is somewhat in war, particularly between the Dwendalian Empire and the Kryn dynasty. And then we have a map here of Wildemount. So it's a fairly big continent with a big coastal region on this side. The game that Critical Role play themselves, it's generally covers this entire area. They've been in the Menagerie Coast. They spent a lot of time on the Menagerie Coast, actually. Xhorhas, which is where like the Drow live, and then a whole bunch of other locations in here. And then we go into calendar and the time. So the calendar basically equates to the Western Gregorian calendar, I think, that we use. No big difference there except the names. The numbers of days are moved around a bit, so we've got like some couple of 32 day months. Different holidays, the fact that, a whole paragraph on the fact that it has 2 moons. Nice. And then sort of generally what to expect in there. And then we go into the story, so we have like the founding, which goes into the Age of Arcanum, which is like the high, powerful magic age. Then the Calamity, where the gods fight against each other and destroy everything. And then where we are now, which is where this game is set, or this campaign is set, is like post-Calamity or post-Divergence. So then it starts to go through like the founding of the Dwendalian Empire, a few of the wars, and how things are happening at the moment, really just to set the scene of where the world is. Then we have a bit more about the Menagerie Coast. So this section is going into the different varying locations of there. So we have like the Graying Wildlands, Eastern Winandir, and then we start to go into the gods. So the way that the gods work, so Matt Mercer's created this world, who is the DM for Critical Role. He's taken a lot of the gods that exist in the Forgotten Realms or just in D&D in general and put a bit of a twist on them. So they're all slightly a little bit different, similar stories, but it's like these gods. If you consider D&D has a multiverse where you have multiple different worlds, the gods sort of cross over all those different worlds. And in that case, they would have different histories, different adventures, different myths and legends about them. So in Exandria the World and Wildmount, they are slightly different. So you do get your normal good gods like Ioun and Pelor and Moradin, things like that. But they're slightly, a little bit different. They have like different symbols and things like that. So there's a fair bit of information on each of the gods, sort of how you can use this as like background material to play like a paladin or someone who follows that god. So they have like the commandments for each of the gods and a little bit of history, how they're depicted, and their holy days. So there's actually a lot of information about the various different gods. So these are all like the good gods. Then we have what's called the betrayer gods. So they're the ones that, and it says here, they strayed from the ideals of the founding and embraced the destructive chaos of the primortals. Or they just didn't get along with others. So again, we have a few traditional D&D gods here, like Grumsh and Lolth, Tiamat. Vecna is even a god as well. And it goes over the same sort of structure about like the commandments, how they're depicted, and their enemies and things like that. So they all have their own little symbol, so we'll just skip over that quickly. Then we have the lesser idols. So these aren't quite gods, but they are quite powerful. If you are a follower of Critical Role watching a campaign, you would be aware of the Traveller and Ukutoa, as well as the Luxon, and a few others have been mentioned here and there. I think Vesh has been mentioned. So they're not quite gods, but they also are. They're sort of like divine. They're really hard to explain, because the Pantheon, so the 2 sets of gods we talked about before, they got banished basically and set behind something called the Divine Gate, but powers can still creep in. So we have these ones. So again, I'm not going to go through too many. I am going to do some videos specifically looking at different sections of this book, and in that case we'll go through a few of them. But there's a lot of different things here. So I think there's like 10 lesser idols, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 betrayer gods, and then 9 other gods. So there's a lot of gods and lesser idols that you could follow in this world, or take and put in your own world. Why not? Chapter 2 is factions and societies. So basically how the structure for this chapter works is it goes through all the different factions and all the different organizations and groups, starting with like the big one, so the Dwendalian Empire. It's one of the biggest, most powerful ones. So it gives a bit of a history of it, including like a little bit of the crest there. But then it also has like their current goals. And with the Dwendalian Empire, it is currently having tensions with Xhorhas and Kryn dynasty. So they're currently in war there, and their goal is to finish that war. then their relationships between the different organizations and how they interact with everyone. And then they'll all have a big section about the figures of interest. So there's a chapter each, how they actually are like neutral good male human for Prince Dwendal. So these are all characters that is really for the DM to be like, oh, we can actually meet all these different characters. So for the Dwendalian Empire themselves, there's almost like 2 pages of, yeah, literally about 2 pages of different characters you could meet. Let me go into the Kryn Dynasty. Again, the same structure, same layout. So I'm not going to go through all the details because that's something that you can get into if you get into the book. The Cerberus Assembly, which is a fairly powerful magical organization that is connected to the Dwendalian. And we have the Clovis Concord. Again, Myriad. We're just going to skip through all of these. Children of Malice, Diaki of Uthadern, Tribes of Shady Creek Run, and so on, and so on, and so on. There's a lot of different organizations that you can take. And again, it's laid out in a way so they are all separated. And if you're running a game or world building, just pick out one of these sections. Let's take the Claret Orders. It has what their goals are, their relationships, people of interest. I think it's a really nice way to lay out different organizations and societies and groups and things like that. So then we get into the Gazetta. So this is the world, the physical world. And it starts here. And again, this has a structure too, which we'll go into. So it starts with the Menagerie Coast. So we'll start with like, just going through the barren shores as an example. Gives you a description of the location and the place. And then an adventure section. Now this is similar to what they had in the Tal'Dorei campaign book, which you could almost say is like the prequel to this book, where they would give you a whole bunch of ideas for adventures. So in this particular case, the Barren Shores adventure is called Be Our Guest. It's a low-level adventure, so a good starting thing. So the characters discover a wrecked smuggler's ship, its ruined structure washed on shore. Inside they find long-dead bodies of smugglers who once manned it, as well as a mysterious animated cargo that slew the previous sailors. So flying swords, rugs of smothering, and animated armor haunt the interior, while the baleful spirits that grants them life remain tethered to a golden chair hidden within the depths of the hole, seeking release from the curse that binds it there. So 2 sentences just to spark an adventure idea. So this is scattered all the way through this chapter is different locations, and then giving you ideas. Like even with Broken Bank, it gives you some adventures there for the Myriads. Agents of the Myriad hire the characters to find information. It just great for a DM, and it was one of my favorite things that I loved from the Tal'Dorei campaign book, where it was like, here's a little thing, here's some adventures that you could design. I think that's really good. Then it goes through some more different locations on the Menagerie Coast, and I haven't pointed any art out yet, but there's tons of art in this book. It's all new art, and as far as I'm aware, if I'm wrong, definitely correct me in the comments, these are done by the fans of Critical Role called Critters, and they have a very big fan art community. They always, if you watch one of the streams and catch it live in the breaks and before and after, they show off tons and tons of art. And they've even got 3 different art books now, specifically for Critical Role. That's how much art there is. So there was a big effort to make sure that the fans had art in there, because there's a lot of talented artists. So then we keep going on again. I'm not going to pick out to really give all the information there. It's just really to give you an overview of the book. So we keep going through, and every now and again we get some maps. So this is a map of Port Damali. So it's a nice little map. Nothing wrong there. There's a lot of things in here that you can pick up and throw in. So even Port Zune, I skipped over this before for some other locations, but it gives you like a population makeup, the type of government, its defenses, commerces, and organizations, and other different locations around. So the bigger locations will give you a whole bunch of this kind of information. Just as like a DM or someone who's world building, just pick it up and put it where you need it to be, which I think is really cool. Change its name and it's pretty good to go. So again, we've still got some more locations. Then we get into the Maro Valley, which is sort of in the central location of Wildemount. and again. So we're just going to skip through a lot of this just to give you an idea of how much is in here. We've got Hupig Duke, Canora, a whole bunch of different locations. There's tons and tons and tons. And you can run, I think that's probably one of the characters. Yeah, it's Pumat Sol at the Pentamarket. He's one of the recurring characters that comes back through the game a lot, and it's probably referenced here somewhere in one of these chapters. I can't remember what I was saying. But I think I was saying that there's so much content in here. Oh my god, it's still going. Another map for... This is for Rexentrum. Yeah, that's pretty much how I imagine Rexentrum to be. I've had a quick skip through this book just to pick up some notes, see what I was going to talk about, but haven't really paid too much attention. So then we get into the Graying Wildlands. Oh my god, let's just skip through a whole bunch. This is really a world book. Let's actually go back to here. So then we have Esselcross, which is a whole bunch of like islands up north. And we get a whole bunch of different encounter things, which is really cool. So if I grab some dice, oh my god, I can't reach the dice. And we go, let's go a low level adventure. So we need to roll a d6. So we got a 6 there. So a young Rima has Ambush as the character. That's kind of cool. Let's go another one though. 2. The characters encounter a lost Cerberus Assembly mage trying to return to Balan Post. The rest of the mage's team died in the ruins of Aor, and there is 50% chance the mage carries a recently recovered Aorian item. Again, that one sentence, that's a whole adventure right there. And the one thing I love about all these books, I always look for the tables that have just random stuff in it. It's one of my favorite things for D&D books. With some more stuff going in, so more locations, and a lot of these locations have not been visited in the Critical Role live stream game either. So this is all new content that even they don't know about. All the critters and fans don't know about. So there's more, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more. There's just so much. I can't even... Let's see if we can like flick through. Okay, we're actually right at the end there. I think we're pretty close to the end. And then it starts to talk about the distant land. So Tal'Dorei, I've already mentioned the book in that a couple of times. The first campaign. It's definitely one from, I think I've already mentioned, like Green Ronin publications. Now, chapter 4. If you're a player, you'd really be picking up the book for like character options. So it goes through... You know, we've got half a page just on dwarves, on where to like get background material for them, and elves and the different races. So then we have different sub-races for elves, like the Pallid Elf and the Sea Elf, and a whole bunch of different things. We got some more halflings. So the Lotus Den halfling, so another sub-race, which is always cool if you want to have a bit of a twist. So like the Lotus Den halfling, so wisdom scores +1, and they also have the special rule, Child of the Wood. You know, the Druidcraft transcript. The Druidcraft cantrip. When you reach 3rd level, you can cast the Entangle spell once with this trait. When 5th level, you can do Spike Growth, and there's that, and also have Timberwalk. So when you... Something about terrain, I couldn't be bothered reading it at the moment, but it's in there for you. And then we have a whole bunch of other stuff in here. More characters for different things, and more characters... and more races and more things. There's a lot of content in here. So it's a lot to go over. So again, we've still got more things. We've got Tabaxi and Tiefling still going through. We've got Turtles. And then we have the different subclasses. So this is probably one of the bigger parts of the book. Well, the most reusable ones, and I don't want to say generic, but they'd be usable in most campaigns. So we have a subclass for the fighter, which is an Echo Knight. So the Echo Knight has mastered the art of using Dunamis to summon the fading shades of unrealized timelines to aid them in battle. Surrounded by echoes of their own might, they charge into the fray as a cycling swarm of shadows and strikes. So you get some really cool abilities here. You can basically create a shadow or an echo to do things for you, which is really cool as a fighter. Usually a fighter is more about inspiration and controlling a situation and being like a commander, but this is more about getting stuck in and fighting. So they got a whole bunch of different abilities to go up. And then we have wizard, so new different kinds of magic to do with time and gravity. So a whole bunch of new spells, which is always really cool, from like 2nd level up to 14th level. We have like one called Event Horizon, which just sounds ridiculous. I'm not going to go into the spells too much. And then we have the Dunamancy spells. So this is about it is, how do I describe it? It's kind of to do with time, but also different possibilities. So if an Echo Knight is the martial combat side of it, a Dunamancy wizard is the magical side of it. So there we go. So there's still tons more spells. Then we have what's called the Heroic Chronicle. So reading through this is very similar to the story background in, what is it called? Xenothar's Guide to Everything, where there's a chapter I'm like, you can roll how many brothers and sisters you have, what's happened to you. And I find I just love rolling random characters, so I think it's a really cool thing to do. With this one, it expands on the ideas of allies and rivals. And I'll see if I can find something there. So it gives you different things about where you're located. So if you come from the Grand Wildlands, where you're likely going to be located from, your family size, family relationships, and so you have your ally and rival relationships. So I'm just going to go back here. What they've done is, so you roll up your background, or you can choose a background, and then you roll depending on where you're located from. If you're the Clovis Concord, the Wendalian Empire, the Grand Wildlands, or the Kryn Dynasty, which is sort of like the Xhorhas area, then you get to choose like an ally or a rival. So for example, I will roll as a folk hero from the Dwendalian Empire. I have a rival. So then we go over here and we talk about rivals, and then we can roll up a rival. So if I get some D100s, if I can find all my dice, I don't even know where. Do I have it? Oh, there we go. Okay. So we've got a 20. Is that a 20 or a 2? That'd be a 2. So we roll up. This person believes that you murdered their sibling. Regardless of your guilt and innocence, they are out for your blood. So we've got someone chasing after us. And I'm not excited by that, but we'll see what they are. They are 63, so they are a scout from the Monster Manual. So you get, you've created someone that's going to be chasing after you, something from your past, creating some backstory there. And if we roll up a d20 to see something about a fateful moment, an event or something like that, roll a 15. We saved a pseudo-dragon from being eaten by a giant spider in the forest. Ooh, it now loyally follows you wherever you go, even if you'd rather stay hidden. It is controlled by the DM, but obeys your commands if treated well. And the fact it's controlled by the DM, that just makes it complicated, which is in a good way. So it's kind of fun. We even got tables for like your favorite food. It's just ridiculous. Like extra stuff you don't need. And the mysterious secret is another one. So let's roll up something on that. So we've rolled a 2. I was the only witness to a cold-blooded murder. In the aftermath, I saw the killer take a gold coin with a ruby inlaid at its center from the victim's body. So that directly ties back into what we rolled before, which was the person believes that you murdered their sibling. So this person who I saw murdered was this rival sibling. And the story's just made itself. It's nice. Then we got stuff on prophecies and extra tables. So then we have some new backgrounds. So the Grinner and the Volstrucker Agent, which is more like a spy. And then a whole bunch of how to adapt backgrounds. Right, so the Adventures in Wildemount. I'm going to skip over this section. I'm going to go through it really fast, just to give you an idea. So we've got some water ones, some underground ones, and some monsters there. I think this is actually based in... Ooh, I can't remember the town, but where the gnomes are and they build stuff and things like that. I don't want to spoil anything. That's basically what I'm trying to do here by skipping through. But there's also other things. I will go There are other tables. So when you're in Broken Vale, there's some random tables for rolling encounters, which, you know, is always fun just to pull out anyway. So let's skip through. So we've still got a bit to go. So we're almost through the book, but this is where a lot of the meat is for players and DMs. So the Wildemount Treasures has a bunch of items. They're generally all wondrous items. So this is the first one that really picked me out. The Butcher's Bib. It just bleeds all the time. But when you do melee damage, you can re-roll the weapon's damage dice, and when you do slashing damage, critical hits on 19 or 20. But it just bleeds. It's not nice. It just bleeds the whole way, which is kind of cool. I like it. Bit dark though. So there's tons of different items. So you have even have the Luxon Beacon. If you do watch Critical Role, you'll know that is an extremely important item. Extremely important. That the characters were able to discover at some point. So I don't want to get away too many spoilers, but yeah, that's always an important item. But there's bunches of different other items too, like a prosthetic limb. You just put a limb on. That's really all it does. Yeah, it doesn't really do any extra things, I think. So there's a lot of things. I'm thinking that I will do a few more videos specifically from this book and do like a video just on the items, a video just on the gods, a video just on the monsters. If you're keen on seeing that, if you've gotten this far through the video, definitely let me know in the comments if you do want to see that, and I can give you my thoughts on some of them. So for example, like even the Vox Seeker, like I'd like to go into detail of that now and talk about that for like a few minutes, but this is just an overview, as I keep saying. Then we have what's called the Vestiges of Divergence, and there's also the Betrayer one as well. So these are wondrous legendary items that you need to attune to, but they are basically given by the gods. And they have the three different states. So a dormant state, so when you get it, it needs to be attuned to a worthy individual over a long period of time. And then as you go on without using that item, it becomes awakened, which gives you more abilities, and then at some point it will reach an exalted status, which gives you crazy abilities. So there's a ton of different ones in here. It's like just tons and tons and tons of them. Then so the evil ones, I guess, are the Arms of the Betrayers. So they generally have like personality as well, and sentient. So they do have the dormant, awakened, and exalted aspects to them. So that's something really cool. So I do want to do a video on that and specifically go into each of them and talk about them a bit more, because they are all tied to the gods in some way. Now we get to the real juicy bit, which is always the fun bit, which I always like, is the Wildemount Bestiary. There's not a huge amount of monsters in here, but there's a fair chunk. So we got some really weird ones. Aeorian hunters looking really weird. They're kind of cool, but they're like, you know, challenge level 10 to 12. So they're no low level things. When I do a more in-depth video of the monsters, I'm definitely going to talk about the core spawn, because these guys just... I haven't actually read this, and I've just want to have a good sit down and read the whole section about the core spawn, because they just look... They're the kind of stuff that I like. Very Lovecraftian, cosmic horror type stuff. So I'm definitely going to sit down and do that, and there's one of the other ones which just looks super creepy. A giant tentacle worm. So I can just imagine just coming up across a whole like hive of these, I guess. We call them a hive? I got no idea. So we've got a frost giant zombie, a frost worm, Gearkeeper construct, and a Gloomstalker. Now, I think there was a Gloomstalker in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. I think so. I'd have to double check that. I don't have the book within arm's reach. It's across the other side of the room, but that's fine. I do love the Horizon Back Tortoise. I think that's really cool. It has like a goblin village on it, because why not? and it just walks the plane. It's great. New version of a zombie. We got some more Mero underground stuff. The Moorbounders, which look nothing like I expected. So these are sort of big beasts, giant beasts of burden that you can buy and ride if you can tame them. I did not think they'd look that cute. Then we got the important Devil Toad that comes up in... Don't want to give any spoilers. Some followers of Ukutoa. And we got like the Sea Fury, which has like a lair, so it has like a whole bunch of legendary actions, which is always very nice. Shadowgast. And we have two more, the Suavane Basilisk and the Udak. It's a big boy. I like that with multiple eyes. Pretty strong. Challenge level 16. So you don't want to run into that one. And then we have a glossary. And we also have a map. I have not pulled this map out yet. I'm not going to, because I'm not going to be able to get it all on camera. But it seems to be fairly large. So that's pretty cool. So there we go. That's what we have. Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. If you do want to see some more videos specifically about this book, definitely leave me a comment below and we shall go through it. I do want to do at least 3 more videos, particularly looking at the gods, the items chapter, and the monsters. And if you're interested, I might even go through the background rules, and we could even roll up some characters just for some fun. I always just like doing that for fun anyway. But I think overall there is a ton of content in here, even if you don't use it for the Wildemount section. And the adventures themselves, there's still, you've got a lot of character development stuff, a lot of items, a lot of monsters, and getting new monsters and items is always fun. But there is a lot of content to pull out, and that's why I skipped over a lot of the, I skipped over the adventures chapter, because there's still a lot of content in there that I didn't want to spoil for people. I am interested in the adventures, but then again, I don't want to really start talking about it without you knowing this is going to be a spoiler video. But yeah, I picked up this book because, for 2 reasons. I like buying all the D&D books. That's just what I do. I don't play as much as I'd like. I haven't played in a while, actually. I just don't have the time these days. But also, I'm a fan of Critical Role. I think what they do is really good, and I think they're partially responsible for the rise of D&D in the last couple of years. One of the reasons. But yeah, so if you have enjoyed this video, definitely leave a comment and a like, and please do subscribe, because we've got more content like this coming out every week, and that will continue on. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.